Okay, welcome to Dopefish Productions. We're going over the issues with this 1989 Holiday Rambler. Status is sold as is. Found a fine gentleman that wants to buy it, and I'm just making a video record of what I'm aware of that's wrong with the RV. Engine wise anyway. There is the little trim there. The trim around the windows needs to be fixed. Roof needs to be resealed. I made a video on the roof resealing. You can see that. And that's some general points, tips, how to do a roof, how to repair the bumper. Got those videos out. As for the engine, you can rotate the engine. Engine isn't seized up. When I posted the first video to sell, that would be part one, the for sale video. I bought this vehicle with another vehicle. The other vehicle had a pack rat living in it like this one did, and the other vehicle, which is a Chevy, had a lot of wires chewed up. So I said that there was wiring damage in the vehicle. On the engine, I'm not seeing any wiring damage. I've had, as of right now, 3 mechanics look at it. They're all telling me about the same thing. There are some wires that come off from behind the passenger side. There's an aftermarket switch. That wire has come down, and that goes to these aftermarket fans on the front. These aftermarket fans were put in by the original owner, and they were meant to help cool the engine when the RV was idling and tailgating. So when the RV would sit, there's not enough airflow. Generally, the cooler you can keep an engine, the better. So he felt that there's not enough airflow when a vehicle sits still. He even did this on the Chevy. He put additional, he put a transmission cooler on it as well, on the Chevy. But here, he put this extra fan to put additional airflow when it's idling or sitting still. The only issue I'm seeing with wiring is to those fans. He ran some extra wires that are spooled up over here. You can kind of see them over here. I don't think those wires go to anything critical. I think they only go to the fan or any additional add-ons he's going to do. I have noticed up in here, where is it? The brake reservoir up there. It is low, and when I was underneath the van, the passenger brake line had a little bit of, looked like brake fluid on it, so I think that brake line needs to be replaced. And then topped off. After you top it off, I'd say you need to bleed the brakes and make sure that, kind of visually inspect. It might be a 2-person job. You can do brakes and bleed them by yourself. It's just a little bit more of a headache. If you need to watch a video on that, there's plenty of content on YouTube on how to do that. Okay, now on to the issues that I discussed with everybody that's reached out to me. The main issue is the starter. Where's the starter located? Starter is located underneath this tire, about a foot or two in and up. So it's probably sitting around somewhere around in here, about a foot or two in. I had 2 mechanics try to bypass the starter. Starter's not turning, not getting voltage through the starter. Definitely starter's bad. There's a solenoid underneath here, back. Solenoid was getting voltage through. Now I believe it's kind of hard for me to get over here. There might be another solenoid over here on the other side of the battery. Let me go ahead and pull this open. I don't know why I didn't do this to start with. So to open these up, you push here, pull, and then you can rotate it either way, and then lift up at the bottom, and it comes down. I think there might be another solenoid up in here. Can't really tell. Battery does have a short. So what I would do, brake line needs to be replaced. Get brake fluid. I believe that's the brake reservoir up there. Looks empty, so it might need to be topped off. Last time I checked, a month or two ago, it had fluid in here. You might want to get some distilled water to add to the radiator as well, just to be on the safe side. Wiring though for the RV, it all looks good. There is a little bit of aftermarket modifications for this fan down here. Trying to think if there's anything else with it. So the possible issues from what I was told, battery definitely bad cell, needs to be replaced. Solenoids, they recommend go ahead and just replacing them. Starter needs to be replaced. If that does not work, I had one of the mechanics tell me that this is built off of a E350 Econoline, that the Econolines are pretty bad about, there's a thing called a neutral safety switch, and it should be on the shifter inside. The neutral safety switch can go bad after amount of time. The neutral safety switch will prevent you from starting the engine or even turning it over. I looked on, I believe it was O'Reilly Auto Parts. All the parts were under $50 a piece. I think neutral safety switch was 20 something in stock a couple months ago when I looked. So neutral safety switch, if that still doesn't get it, I would say it would probably be the actual starter on the key column. That could be replaced too. After that, I'm really thinking that might be all the issues with it. I'm not aware of anything else. Well, I had the mechanics look over it. Also, generator. I'm pretty sure the generator runs. It just hasn't been started in a while. It might need, oh, that's wrong, sorry. That's the battery compartment. As you can see, these are pretty common generators. They made them for a while. They're still in production. The parts should be pretty available for this type of generator. You probably just will need a little babying to get started. There is a switch on the inside to start that remotely, so that is nice when you're idling. You want to run the AC, you don't feel like running the engine. It pulls fuel out of the gas tank. I did replace the fuel pump in 2020. I have the fuel pump box inside. It was almost an exact match of the one I pulled out. I drained out the gas, added some gas back to it. I don't remember how much, but the gas did have stabilizer, and it was non-ethanol gas. So there's a chance the gas could still be good, but you'll just have to see. Probably might want to drain the tank again. And what would I do for fuel? Now, with an RV, these general RVs were meant for, since this is an 89, that's after they removed lead from gas, from my understanding. This was generally, I think, what, 87 octane normal gas, what you put in a car. So if you're going to run it on a trip, run 87. If you're going to put it up for storage, find a gasoline station that sells non-ethanol gas. It's going to be about 20-30% more, maybe a little bit more than that, depending on what year you watch this, per gallon. With non-ethanol gas, zero ethanol, ethanol has a bad habit of pulling moisture out of the air. Moisture in the air gets into the fuel, it helps it to break down and oxidize it quicker. That's exactly why you kind of want to keep a fuel tank or no fuel at all. Like if you have a generator independent, wouldn't do it to this generator. But if you have a stand-at-home generator, I run my generator slap clean, no fuel in it, and then I put gas in it, prime it, and then I will put a little WD-40 or some ether inside the carburetor on a little portable, storm generator. And then 1 or 2 pulls, it'll start right up after you let it sit for a few minutes with the gas in it. But with this, you want to, probably if you're going to store it for more than a month or two, definitely non-ethanol gas. I believe gas starts to break down after 90 days. So that's why you normally probably wouldn't have any issue if you're driving the car regularly. If you're going to sit it up, you need to put non-ethanol. Non-ethanol, I believe, can last 6 months before it starts to break down. You can extend the life up to 2 years if you use fuel stabilizer. I believe there's a YouTube channel called Project Farm. I think they did a video on fuel stabilizer a few years ago. You might want to check that out. Fuel stabilizers is critical. I would run fuel stabilizer in every tank of gas I put through this vehicle. Why would I do that? Well, you have a long fuel line coming from the back to here, and you have a long fuel line coming from the back of the tank where it's back there to the generator on the other side. If you put fuel stabilizer in the tank, after you park it up, there's not going to be any fuel stabilizer in the line, and there's not going to be any fuel stabilizer near the engine. So that means the gas there can start to break down and hurt performance, and possibly gum up the engine. So I always recommend fuel stabilizer on older vehicles. If you have a lot of vehicles and you don't drive them very often, check your manual. but I normally run in all my vehicles that I don't drive very often, non-ethanol gas. Because I do put very low mileage on my vehicles. I've got quite a few. So fuel stabilizer I do run in all my tanks. It's a little extra expense, but it will save you a lot of headache. Okay, other than that, what else was wrong with this vehicle? The vehicle doesn't have any smell in it, and I did do a roof inspection. So, and I looked through all the cabinets, did not see any leaks. So, there is a slight smell in the bathroom. Now, this vehicle has set up for a few years, and just like if you have a upstairs or downstairs bathroom and it sits up for a while and no one goes in there, then the sink, there's a little thing called a U-joint. So the U-joint goes down and there's a little turn, that's the U-joint, and it goes back down. Those U-joints prevent odors from coming up in the tanks or from the sewer in the house. What I did was I added a little water to the toilet because it was dry. I'm leaving a little water on the top of the toilet. I'm leaving a little water in the bathroom sink. I did inspect the roof above the bathroom. I don't see anywhere where it could have leaked, and I think it just might be odor coming from the U-joint. When the buyer gets out here, we should notice a difference with that water there in those pipes, see if the odor's gone or not. But I believe that was the issue for that. I did a video on the roof. The roof will need to be resealed. I am fairly confident that it's not going to leak between now and the time the buyer gets here. And it probably can go even a few weeks to a few months after that without having to worry about it too much. But I definitely recommend when he gets it to where he wants to put it, definitely put some type of tarp over it, or if not, put it in a barn until you get around to resealing it. I recommend a fairly high-end RV sealant or marine sealant, something above $50, and do some research. I did a video on my opinions, my thoughts, my experience on roofs. You can check that out before seeing this one or after. I don't know which order I'm posting these in. Definitely needs the roof resealed. What else? Now, this isn't a problem, but this is a general idea with RVs. It has a Dometic fridge in there, and it has a gas burner and a gas oven. Now, when you're running gas, propane, I misspoke, propane. When you're running propane tanks generally have a 10-year lifespan, and you will have to replace those propane tanks, and you will have to replace those about every 10 years. If it was me, what would I do after replacing the propane tank? I would probably see if I could find some type of adapter and then run. If I haven't really looked at the fittings for it, but it depends on what type of propane tank on, whether or not it's welded in. But you'll want to have the propane tank removed. You'll want to put a replacement tank in, and I would probably do one with fittings. That way you can just unscrew the tank and the hoses every few years, or if you don't feel like taking the RV up to go get the tank refilled, I'd probably do like little 20-gallon tanks or 5 or 10-gallon tanks, maybe 1 or 2 underneath there, and I would attach them maybe with some straps or build a box for it, and I would make it to where you just use the disposable grill style propane tanks. That's probably what an upgrade I would do on it. After that, you probably want to get yourself, now this is just me, and this is for me being safe. Generally when you're in an RV, you always kind of want to keep a window cracked. Generally on the top, they have like fantastic fans. That would be fine. Or up front, you could crack the window. Generally you won't, regardless of the temperature. If it's raining, you might can raise up one of the fans on top a little bit. You want a little bit of airflow. Why do you want a little bit of airflow? You want a little bit of airflow because you're in an enclosed environment and you're producing carbon monoxide, and the problem with carbon monoxide is it's very difficult to detect if you're asleep. Even if you're awake, you can get a little lightheaded, feel a little woozy, not be thinking straight. You could be impaired and not even really know it. So I guess this is like a question. if you're in an enclosed environment, what type of safety procedures do you want to do when you might be exposed to carbon dioxide or gas if a pipe does leak? You generally want to have, so just think about it for a second, you drop it in the comments. The answer is A, window open. When you're in the vehicle, leave it cracked a little bit. Secondly, or a fan. Secondly, I recommend putting in several, more than one, 2, preferably even 3 carbon monoxide detectors. Why would I want to do 3? Carbon monoxide detectors go bad. I might be stupid, but if memory serves me right, carbon monoxide detectors are only good for a year or 2. At least that's what the manufacturers state. And I would be inclined to say that. I mean, they're not that expensive, $20, $50, I think, on the high end for a good carbon monoxide detector. How would I do it? I'd probably do 2 smoke detectors and 3 carbon monoxide detectors. That sounds a little excessive. And I would do them with different brands. Why would I do different brands? Well, different factories of origin, different sensors, different lifespans, leads to a higher detection rate. And I would probably even go so far as to do more than 1 pack of batteries. I'd put you could probably go to the same store, buy like a Duracell and an Energizer. Lithium, recommend lithium, because lithium lasts longer. And I'd probably put in 1 smoke detector, and one of them the Energizer, and the other one I do Duracell. Batteries have different lifespans. Could be a faulty batch. When you're talking about safety, and you're talking about your health and your life, spending $150 extra, smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors is a good idea. If you're in a house and apartment, smoking carbon monoxide detectors is still a good idea too. I do that as well. I use different batteries. I just use the batteries for other stuff afterwards. I don't ever put old batteries in there. I always buy a new pack when I replace the batteries. And whatever batteries are left over, I put for flashlights, generally. But anything else I can think of? Well, there's the obvious. Old vehicles, you might, when you get around to it, hoses do start to go bad, belts do start to go bad, brake lines still start to go bad. So an older vehicle, I would say over 15 years old, you might want to start checking for dry rotting cracks. Check to see if there's any residue at the beginning or end of a hose. Is a hose clamp rusty? Maybe you might want to put a new hose clamp on. Give it a good squeeze. Do you hear any cracking? Do you feel any powder come off? If any of those are true, you probably want to replace the hose. Depending on the hose, depending on the belt, you're looking $20 to $60 depending on it. If you get anything more specialized, you might have to spend more. But I would probably do that down the road after you have it up and running. Replace belts and hoses. I do that on vehicles probably around the 10, 15 year mark. Also, I flush fluids every few years. Radiator, I tend to flush every 3 to 5 years, more closer to 3. And I only use distilled water. I don't use tap water in radiators. Tap water has calcium, lime, different trace elements. Those trace elements can stick to the inside of the radiator, hoses, fittings, inside the engine. It can reduce thermal conductivity and reduce engine performance. And it can even tear up your pump too. So I'll use distilled because distilled is purified boiled water. It's just a general good idea. To my knowledge, and the best I can think of, that's the only issues with this vehicle. This is a project vehicle, but physically, it's in good shape. For the age, for the vintage, I think it'll be a good vehicle. I think when it's up and running, it'll be a reliable vehicle. And I hope the buyer has many, many good and happy years running it. Now, thank you for checking out Dogefish Productions. This isn't our normal content, but we will do additional RV and car videos in the future. Until the next time, take care. Have a good day. Goodbye.